Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther and today I'm going to share with you my very low maintenance process for harvesting and drying and saving herbs from your garden for the winter. I recommend doing this. It's really useful for when you have a small garden. This is one of the few things that you can grow and save and have enough to save for the winter. When, small garden, there's very little produce that I grow that is so much that I need to can it or preserve it because I don't have time to eat it all. And so this is one way to kind of feel like I'm still getting some long-term benefits from the plants other than the short-term freshness. And it's just really neat to be involved in that process. And so I'm going to take you outside. I'm going to cut some of these herbs. Today we're going to be cutting sage and chocolate peppermint leaves. And then you want some way to hang them. You want to have I use this picture frame thing that has this little clip, so I'll just bunch them together and hang them here. Or you can tie them up, and I'll show you that. You can tie them up and hang them from something like this. Or you can even lay them flat on, a paper plate to dry, or a paper towel if they're not already wet. You don't want to put something that would stick to the paper towel on the paper towel, but anything that's kind of going to allow them to dry and not necessarily hold the moisture in is what you want. All right, so let's get outside and get started on this. When I cut back herbs, I generally, especially with mint, you don't have to worry too much. But you can see here how there are some little leaves growing out of this part here. So I try to cut above where one of those little growth spurts is. It's not absolutely necessary, but see, here's one that I cut. You can see very clearly this was the stem and it produced more. So I think that applies in a lot of cases. If you're just trying to trim it back in general, you don't have to worry so much about that, but in this case, I don't see any little, let's see. And the thing with herbs is they will grow as you cut them. So most herbs, do well with a healthy cutting. In this case, I even let this go to seed or to flower, and I have to see if, I'm gonna cut those back and I'm gonna see how they taste. All right, I'm gonna cut more than this. Okay, in the case of sage, you want to take off, you don't want to mess with the shoots. So you can see here, for example, right here, this sage here, this shoot right here, look at all of those beautiful, beautiful leaves or petals or sage leaves growing out from the stem. So you don't want, in that case, to cut it all the way down. In that case, you'd want to trim, I'm already taking off one or two here. You'd want to trim. You don't want to trim the top either because they're also growing new leaves, new big ones. You can take it like that. And you want to leave the stem on because if you're hanging them to dry, you want something to be able to tie them by. So some people like to rinse their herbs before they use them. I do look them over to make sure that they don't have any weird spots or things that I'm worried about, any critters on them, but generally I want to preserve as much of the freshness of the herb, the natural oils as possible. I don't want to wash those off. So I tend to, when I make my hot tea, boiling water will kind of kill anything, so most of the time I just plop it in. Now here I'm removing some leaves that are a little bit more questionable, as well as I'm removing the flower buds. I don't know if I should leave them on. They probably taste fine, but let's see what else I got in here. A few more mints. Okay. So I just generally take them, since I have these little clips here, I just generally take these guys and try to find a way to kind of put them together like that. You could put a lot more in it if you have a whole bunch of bunches of mint. You know, you could fill the whole thing up. But since I have a relatively small sample here, there's a sage I missed. I'm just gonna do it this way. And then I have this one. That one's a little eaten up anyway. I'll just put these two together. But I'll probably go out and pick more and put them all together. But that gives you an idea of kind of how I hang them until they look nice and shriveled up. For me, that's usually like 2 to 3 weeks, but it can be a little bit longer as well, or a little bit less. It's probably been a month since I filmed the harvesting of these. They were really, the chocolate mint and sage were dry within probably 3 weeks, but you know, it takes time to get to things. No, this isn't vitamins. I keep the little absorbent tabs. I keep these silica gels and things like that. I keep these in a bottle, and just whenever I start a new thing, I'll put, now I don't have one in this, it smells okay still, but if it's something that, if it's a herb that has like a lot of moisture to it still, I will definitely put one of the silica gel absorbents in there just to keep it from getting moldy. I haven't had too much of a problem with that, but for like my Christmas lima beans, even though they're dehydrated before I put them in the container, I try to, you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry, right? All right, so this is how it looks now that it's dried. Get a good look there. And what I do is I usually have 2 paper plates, or sometimes I'll do it on the same plate, you know, depending on how much stuff I'm processing. But I'll have 2 paper plates, one for putting the leaves I want to save on, and then one for my discard pile, right? These are the sticks. And I'll just throw these in the compost. You can technically keep, you know, the sticks, I think they have a little bit of flavor to them. But personally, when it comes to like saving space, I think that having the herbs, you know, in a bottle, you know, you're gonna use up a lot less space without the twigs. And the leaves come off so much easier once they're dried off the stem, and versus trying to take them off the stem when you're going to dry them. I mean, it's really, let me get a big one here and show you. So there's a nice long one, and really just a matter of doing that. It's really, really fast. And it smells so good when you're doing it. So for chocolate mint, I like to make a tea with it. I treat it just like I would any mint when I make the tea. You know, I might put lemon balm in it. I might put regular tea bags and make like a caffeinated tea or an herbal one. And I have found that because it's chocolate mint, it kind of has a the flavor, I think, is more complex, and so it doesn't need as much sweetener. So I can usually drink it without any sweetener, but I always have some stevia or monk fruit sweetener or simple syrup if I have guests over, so they can pour it in to the container and into the drink. And I'll just chill it. Like, I'll make it the night before, I'll get the water boiling, throw the fresh leaves in, and if it's in the winter, I'll throw these in. A handful of them depending on the water, maybe 2-3 handfuls, depending on how much you're making. And then just let it boil. And then you could leave it in overnight and put it in the fridge, or you could sift it and then put it in the fridge to cool, and the next morning you have some nice, cool, refreshing tea. But yeah, just keep an eye out all year round for sales, for things that might be good for hanging. Now you can dehydrate these in a dehydrator. You can do like an accelerated process by drying them in your stove at a low temperature. I don't know the exact directions for that, but you can look it up. And you know, if you have a real dust allergy or something like that, that might be the better option for you. And I've read in some places that letting things dry naturally helps preserve the oils, the natural beneficial oils in them. I don't know the extent to which that's true, but you know, that is one reason that I do it this way. All right, so here is our final product. I don't know exactly how much it is, but I'd say it's probably maybe a cup's worth, maybe a half a cup to a cup's worth uncrushed. And then I just... All right, so I already started doing it, not realizing my microphone wasn't on me. But here is my sage drying rack. Looks kind of like earrings. And what I like to do is I like to snap off the stems, because when I'm cooking, if I just want to crush the sage, I can do that easier. And I tend to put, oh, so you can see a little bit of variegation there, that like the white edges on the leaves. I tend to put sage in any stews I'm making. I find it kind of helps the flavor of that. It's good with chicken and mushrooms. Like I love doing a chicken mushroom, sage and thyme risotto, or not risotto, but like combo. And I find sage is actually quite expensive to buy in the store, and so if I can have it, this is one of the things that's very easy to grow. In Maryland, in Zone 7A where I'm at, it's perennial, so you don't have to, you know, once you get plants going, you don't have to plant more every year. So mint and sage are two very easy to grow in Zone 7A in Maryland. One thing I should mention is that because I had such a small amount of sage left, I didn't flip it. But you technically, if you're putting new herbs into a container that has old herbs, you probably want to take out the old herbs, have them set aside somewhere, and then put your new herbs in and then put the old herbs on top so that they get used first. I did that for my calendula flowers. You can see the lighter colored ones compared to the darker colored ones. The lighter colored ones are from last season. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. If you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.